Hello and welcome to another tip on Maximo. I'll be your host, Chris Winston, here in Charlotte, North Carolina. This session was originally presented on June 29th, 2016 at the Maximo User Group Summit in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're going to be talking about options for leveraging the Maximo Start Center, and I'm going to focus on enhancements that are provided in 7.6. For the demonstration, we'll specifically use 7.604. For reference, I provided a link, should make sure it's working, which I think it is, to give you, some videos on Star Center for Maximo 7.5, including the overview as well as the individual portlets and their design. So again, we're really going to focus on things different in 7.6. We'll cover some 7.5 things as well, but just to keep things in perspective, please remember these demonstrations are practical guidelines and ideas to enhance overall usability and are no substitute for formal training. Should you or anyone have any additional topics to request, please send an email to media@progitech.com. For what we're going to talk about to our agenda, we'll take a look at security, and this is how essentially the Start Centers are deployed to the individual users. We'll take a look at the overall portlets and some of the components around their design, but mainly looking at all of their function. Icons you'll find are more present, including some common icons that were not present in the application, and fewer text labels, just to kind of make things more sort of universal. Slide navigation, for many people this will be new. For some it will be a review of what was present in older versions. So depending on how far back you go, it's new or a refresher, but it does have some new and additional features that are present, and we'll take a look at that as well. We'll go over some sample Start Centers that you have for review, and then we'll do an actual demonstration inside of Maximo, again 7.6.0.4. So taking a look at security. Security groups is where you would assign an individual Start Center to a security group. You then assign users to that security group, and users can have more than one security group, therefore they can have more than one Start Center. If you have access to multiple Start Centers, they'll just appear as individual tabs across the top of the screen, and you can simply click on each individual tab to select it and then display whatever's on that Start Center. Generally, it'll be in alphabetical order. So display settings will allow you to modify and select a different default Start Center, as well as setting mobile. And we'll take a look at that, and if we can get everything working, we'll take a look at it on mobile device as well. So portlets. The bulletin board, first portlet, allows you to post a message that's available to one user, some users, or all users, depending on how you want to have that deployed. And if you have made available an email server to send email from Maximo, you can then use the bulletin board application to send messages via email as well as to post them. The portlet on display will then display the messages. They will also give you an option on the Start Center, and I'll take a look at that when we look at the actual Start Center icons, which I believe are probably just a slide away. Workflow. If you're using workflow, and especially if you have multiple workflows, each user only needs one workflow inbox. If they're on a PO and a PR and a work order workflow, those same inbox will accommodate all the workflows from all applications at any point in time when assignment arrives to that individual user, either as an individual or as a member of a group that is assigned at that particular time. So only need one if you're using workflow, and if you're not, of course, you don't need it at all. Key performance indicators, main thing to keep in mind, they live at organization level. So if you want to have site-specific KPIs, key performance indicators, which are essentially a structured query language statement that resolves to a number, then you want to make sure that the site ID is incorporated, or site IDs are incorporated inside that SQL statement. Just for reference, there's a number of enhancements for key performance indicators, and there are a number of videos that IBM's made, and I've got a link for that here as well. Application shortcuts, which are either quick insert or favorites. Favorites, of course, take you directly to the application with one click. If you have a default query, of course, then that query will run so that one click will, from the Start Center, take you into the application and display a list of records that you're searching for. Quick Insert will take you with one click from your Start Center to the application in question and hit the new row button for you or the new record button for you and then create a new record. So it's, there's slightly different functionality, which is why they are two separate portlets. Report list. So cautionary here, and although you can run reports from the Start Center, you want to make sure that the reports that you set up to run from the Start Center have parameters either that appear at runtime or embedded in the report or both, so that you don't have runaway reports. And yes, in 7.6 there are a number of different administrative options to assist you with minimizing or canceling a report that's running amok, but it's a lot better if you have the base design of the report that you put on the Start Center to give you some limitations directly based on the design. The last thing, which is probably the most significant enhancement with 7.6 Start Center, is result sets. Result sets take you into the application and display essentially a query. So you can have a query built in an application, bring it out to the Start Center, and you have essentially the same functionality you have in the application. As you can click on a record and go to the details in the application. You can look at a group of records, but then you have some additional functions present on the Start Center to be able to display them in a graphic format, to add color highlighting based on certain criteria, and these are really pre-7.6 functions that were present. The most significant new functions present are, one, leveraging the report object structure so that you can get elements from other objects or tables. So you display an inventory result set, for example, on the Start Center. You don't have the item description. Well, in 7.6 you will, as long as the inventory report object structure has the item table on it, with the item object in that, and that's something you'll have to build. It does not come that way out of the box. So that is a change you need to make within the report object structure in the object structures application. Similarly, if you have work orders in work order tracking or work reporting, and you want to display the asset serial number, well, the report object structure is already delivered with that present, and you'll just need to leverage it and make sure that's what you use. So we'll go ahead and do a demonstration. We'll actually build one out. All right, so what the Start Center icons now are going to look a little bit more like common. So instead of having a label that says Start Center, you're going to actually have in the upper left corner the house icon, where Start Center appeared in the upper right, not quite in the corner. So things move a little bit. The labeling's minimized in terms of text, and you get more icons. Similarly, the go-to menu has moved from the right half of the screen to more almost all the way to the left, and that'll appear as 3 horizontal lines. And that'll be present, still giving you the same go-to functions you had before as based on your security. That allows you to get into individual modules and applications. It's just physically moved a little bit on the screen. I mentioned before the bulletin board. The bulletin board icon will display a number and indicating that there is one or more messages waiting for you, and you can click on that to then display them. So you'll have some flexibility around utilizing the bulletin board portlet in the Start Center or not. And most of the other icons are very similar to what they were before for reports, profile, exit, and help. The Start Center controls are a little bit hard to see, so I've blown them up here. So you won't see them in this format. They'll, when we look at the demonstration, you'll see what actual size is. But this is kind of what they look like when you blow them up. So a couple of things that are usually reserved to administrators. creating a new template or an existing template. Essentially, the template will sit in the database, and that'll be the baseline, which will then be attached to a security group and then provided to an individual user. Going forward with that, you may deploy to some users the ability to alter their Start Center, to change the layout, change the content, how things display on the left or right side, the overall layout of the Start Center itself, and in this case, allowing them to alter the template that they're delivered from the database. And that's, again, it's really going to be a business decision as to how you deploy your security. When you look at making an update, either because you want to restore from the Start template to get the latest, or because you made an error and got rid of something by mistake and you want to bring them back. Either way, you can choose Update Start Center. It'll draw the latest that's in the database, and that will become the Start Center. You just need to keep in mind local changes that you have made will be erased, and you'll be starting over with whatever's in the baseline template. So again, this will be a business decision combined with a user decision as well if you want to overlay changes you've made locally, and then you may just need to make them again. Display settings allows you the ability to, as I mentioned before, choose a different template of those that appear in alphabetical order as your default. You can also choose which ones to display or not. And with 7.6, maximum every place is delivered in the core product, so it's no longer an add-on. Consequently, you will have some mobile access when you are in connected mode. That is, you have Wi-Fi or cellular or some kind of connection that allows you continuous connection to the server. So you'll see a Maximo login that is mobile, and the screen will look a little bit different, but the overall application will look a lot different. The Start Center itself generally will have fewer fields, more larger icons, labels, text, basically because you're going to on a tablet or perhaps even a smaller device, and it needs to be readable on the smaller device, and we'll take a look at that as well. If we look at some the base functionality, kind of the new piece, we have this side navigation. So in the earlier versions, this would be the module bar that would appear with the modules and, of course, the applications you have access to from those modules. So you do have the ability now to take that side navigation and just sort of minimize it. There's a small control, a little hard to see, but that will allow you to minimize, or you have some ability to alter the sizing of what the side is. But it gives you a little bit more space to spread out the other elements of the Start Center. If you would then just kind of hide that off to the side, and your overall screen will then expand. So you do get some flexibility with this. This is to handle and help you on the left-right scrolling, of course. It may adjust your vertical scrolling if you have things that wrap, but ultimately, as you see in this one, the vertical scrolling is pretty significant, so the side navigation really doesn't make that much difference. You do have the flexibility around it, but the thing to keep in mind is you have limited real estate, so you'll want to choose wisely as to what you actually display on your Start Center. Even though the side navigation has been suppressed and your module bar is gone, your go-to menu is still available. So you still have access to go to modules and applications, and when you're in an application, of course, you'll have that as well. Most of the time, unless you hyperlink, and then you'll have a return with select. In addition, and new for 7.6 is you also have access to recent applications. So things that you've accessed recently with regards to utilizing that in Maximo, and then those will recycle as you lose. It's basically the last, I believe the default's 8, so it's the last 8 applications you've accessed, and then as you use other applications, the list will just update and change. So this is very useful for people who have a lot of applications that they potentially have access to, super users and administrators, but it can be useful for anyone. Now, if we take a look at, in this case, a sample for a maintenance lead technician. In this particular case, clearly everything is pretty much based on work orders. A couple differences since these two portlets are work order related. One of the things that's been noted, the first portlet goes to work order tracking, the second goes to work reporting. So you do have that flexibility, in which case if you do, you may want to label it so people will know which application they're actually going to go into. Obviously, label should also include the description of the query itself in terms of what they're actually getting, and then the overall Start Center should really be based on role and the security for that individual user. This makes them easier to maintain as well as to deploy. One other note here on the results set, and let's see if we can right here. So this quick reporting portlet displays the lead, which is a person ID from the lead field in the work order, but you'll also notice we have lead person details, the actual name of the person. So in this case, utilizing the report object structure, you're able to pull in other data from other tables or objects into the result set, which you've not had access to before without something custom. You also, again, have access to reports, favorites, quick insert. So the things you usually had with Start Center, they're still going to be there. I mentioned also the control icons are a little small. This is more or less what they'll look like real-time size. So, just need to get used to the fact that they are there. The most popular one that all users will actually need to know about is the Update Start Center icon, so they can actually refresh into the latest view of whatever Start Center template design has been posted and made available to them. The bulletin board indicator showing a message, again, is there and available to you to be able to review that message in cases like this where there is no bulletin board portlet. A busier Start Center, in this case, finance and procurement. So on the left side, we see multiple favorites, grouped mostly by module, including a list of reports, and these are, let's see, locations, inventory. So actually, purchasing. So you have, in this case, reports are from many different places in Maximo, but they're all displayed here. Grouping by module is optional. It's just, again, for readability and usability. When it comes down to having a lot of things, it's probably very useful. And then, of course, you have controls where you can minimize, an individual portlet and kind of get it out of your way unless you need it, and then you can open up again. The options you have on this side, on the result sets, of which there are 3. So, now, again, I mentioned earlier, you can change color based on a certain field, criterion, value. You have your next page indicator in cases where the number of records doesn't fit on the portlet, so you have to be able to scroll. And you got the filter. So, these things are still there and present, and there'll be a couple other options which I'll discuss when we take a look at the demonstration. But again, in this case, this is an inventory portlet for items recently issued. And you'll notice, the item number, of course, is there because it's part of the inventory and storeroom and so on. But also you have the item master description, the actual description of the part, which was not available to you on the result set before 7.6. So that's something else to keep in mind that you get when you are leveraging the report object structure for building your Start Center. Just need to make sure you select a report object structure when you build it. In fact, let's go ahead and get into Maximo and build one out. So let's see. Hey, it didn't time out. Let's make sure it didn't time out. Yeah, good. I didn't time out. So let's see. So a few things. First, I'm going to start with the maintenance Start Center. So I'm going to go display settings, I'm going to choose maintenance, and I'll make that my default. Real time, no reboot, no rebuilding the ear, and so on. Just change it, and you're good to go. You sign out, sign back in, and it'll still be there. Let's see. Next, let's go ahead and build that portlet. And, oh, we got a lot of them here. So let's shrink these guys down because, oops, we don't need them displayed right now. Actually, that's the one I was going to build. So let's go ahead and get rid of them, and we'll build them again. There we go. So we want to go to change layout and content. We're going to add a result set, say finished, and then we'll go into our designer, and let's see, this is going to be based on work order tracking. And when we select the application and tab off the field, Maximal validates it and then makes available to us the default object structure. There may be others, in which case, of course, you can choose the other object structure you need. But this one's going to be fine. For us, we'll need to select the query, and we're going to go with no lead assigned, I believe, which was here. And we need some fields. So I'm not going to go through 162 6 at a time. I went ahead and put in a little bit of criterion. I think, get all of these guys. And all of these will be fine as well. So there's the first set of fields that are going to be on here, but I also want, let me alter this a little bit. Oh, before I get too far along, I'm going to go into the asset object, because when I built this previously for someone else, they needed the serial number as part of their display, so we'll go ahead and add the serial number as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit finished just to get us started. So a number of things have taken place, but clearly the order is, well, there isn't any order. It's disorder. So we can change the order. Also, this result set needs a title. So we're going to go back in here. Usually, at least for me, the query title is usually enough for the result set. That's just me. And then for order, I'll just change a few of these. Let's see, I'm going to go with the work order first, description, location, asset before, and I guess I'll just do them all. Let's see, I need a serial number after my asset number. Actually, let's just see how that works. Probably one off. Yeah, because that guy was the same number. So let's do that again. And we'll make that 6. It's for, it'll resolve them. So now I have my serial number next to my asset number. And of course I can filter the list because there's quite a few records here. Maybe I want everybody who's less than or equal to 5 in priority. That gets me 209. So I got a few work orders. But I still have this large list of work orders. And I think probably the most popular new feature, well, I'll come to that in a second. So I can build it out. I can relate grabbing another object. I can alter the label as well if that's preferred. I can hyperlink over into the application, in this case work order tracking, and bring all 209 records. But the newest feature that is of most interest behind the report object structure is this little button right here. Now, as long as you've based your start center result set on a report object structure, then you'll get the download option, which will download your filtered list into Excel. And there they are. So the download feature that you have in the application is 209 rows plus row 1 is labels. So again, the download feature you have in the application is now going to be available to directly from the Start Center, in which case here you'll be able to have that additional capability and you still have your filtering like you do in the application. So your two major enhancements, one, the report object structure, that's providing you with greater detail from other set parts of Maximo, and two, the ability to actually download those records to Excel in pretty short order. One of the other benefits which precedes 7.6 is that when you're designing a result set, you get to choose the columns, whereas in the list tab of an application, you get what you get. So different people can present the same work order data with different columns based on their individual result sets on their Start Centers. You change the labeling as well, and this gives you, again, some additional flexibility without having to alter the Maximo application. All right, so we beat that one pretty well. Let's take a look at a couple other things from a usability standpoint, and of course I need a message, so let's go ahead and just grab, I think I can grab an existing message, and I'll just extend them out a little bit. And let's, of course, I've probably seen them already, so actually let's go ahead and just duplicate them. Whoops. And make them active. Oh, okay, approved. And go back to the Start Center. And there's our message. So we have the message here displayed. We also have it here on the Start Center. So the benefit to that, of course, is while I happen to be in an application and I notice that it's there, I can just click on it, look at the details, long description, if you will, and I have access to that. And then once I'm done, when I go back to the Start Center or just refresh, the number is gone. So the default on the bulletin board messages is that once you've displayed it, even though it is still current, it will be hidden from the display for the icon on your navigation bar, and then it will be available to you, though, in the bulletin board if you alter your filter. If you get rid of the filter that hides the messages you viewed and then redisplay, you will then be able to see it. So you do have that option, so that's just something you need to keep in mind if you're going to remove the bulletin board or not deploy the bulletin board onto individual Start Centers. I'm going to get rid of Workflow Inbox too. So I have more room for other things I may want in the Start Center, but if I need those bulletin board controls, I don't really have them. So business decision on your part, and you'll have to make it. Just something else to keep in mind. If you've gone through, you've done this, and you realize you want it back, Update Start Center will bring the latest from the template onto your Start Center, but it will get rid of changes that you have made locally. So it's kind of up to you. All right, now, so I've done the update. One thing this does, it resets everything, so I've got to go back into display settings and make maintenance my default. I can also decide that I don't really need to see self-service. So make that change, and then made the wrong change. I'm going to make maintenance my default, get rid of that, and hide self-service. So deselect it. That's better. So now maintenance is here as my primary, and self-service is gone. And I mentioned before the Finance and Procurement Start Center, a little busier. One thing I would mention here, a lot of people will do this in the access for purchasing and go to purchase orders. For the receiving person, it's a lot easier if the result set is actually based on a query inside receiving. So that way when they look If they want to filter, well, there's only 26 on here, it's not that much, but if you wanted to filter on, say, a certain vendor, and I have a list of those to find a certain order, and you go, well, yeah, it's one of these, and you click on it, then it takes you into the application, but in this case, it takes you into the receiving application. Because again, result sets are based on a query created in an application that you have access to. So the thing to keep in mind is what you want on your Start Center is where do you want to go when you click on one or a group of records. That's where you want to have the query built and then have the Start Center result set built on that. We mentioned mobile earlier, so let's take a look at what happens with the mobile login. And we'll switch over here. And actually, let's go into somebody else. So I have, interesting. So I didn't spell it wrong. That's better. So when first rolling this out several years ago, I found a response I didn't expect. And some people would actually like the fact that the every place design and layout gives you bigger font, fewer buttons, just by the nature of the Everplace designer and switching it to a mobile design. I have actually found some people utilizing this on their desktop. It has fewer things to deal with. Usually there are fewer buttons. Because the idea behind it when you're designing an application for Everplace is you get down more specifically to primary functions someone's going to need while they are mobile. So they'll need everything they have at the desktop. So that it does give them some flexibility, but then it also makes it more readable, less cluttered, and for some people that is actually the preferred method to go through and use the application. And perhaps a better way to show this is if we can display it directly and mobilize. Let's see if we can get that guy up and running. There he is. So let's get him to fit better. Oops, that's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Get him to fit a little better on the screen. So same Start Center. This case I'm using it on a tablet that I'm using now on Wi-Fi, of course, to get around in. So now I will control things from the tablet itself. So you won't see the mouse moving because I'm actually just tapping on the tablet to get from one portion of the application to another. And I'll take it out of its case. Of course, it comes to the keyboard first. Get rid of that. And from here, you can see, and this is more of the view that you get on a tablet. It looks like everything got bigger. And on the screen that you're looking at here, of course it does, but on the actual tablet, it's bigger than it would normally be. So again, that's something to consider when you are actually building these out within the Maximo application in terms of what functionality you want to have present, what fields you want to have present, and then the individual buttons as well for controls and essentially actions. Status is probably most common, or status shortcuts for just about anything you enable for Everplace. But then there'll be other things that are available to you in terms of actions, so you'll want to consider those as well, because that's all going to have to be designed. So all I did was move ahead in the list of tasks. In this case, unlike quick reporting, this is quick reporting designed for Everplace and landscape, hence the L. So I've got fewer tasks at the bottom of the screen, and then of course if I scroll things up, I have access to my other details as well, and I can post other things in there. In addition, and one last thing I'll show here and see if we can get this all to behave nicely. If I move into the inventory application, and of course it'll probably take me to a cursor right away, and I borrowed a free keyboard demo. It only works with Android, but the ability is built in to Everplace. So I can, I'll defaults me to cursor into a field. I can activate the scanner, and then I have a bunch of barcodes here, so I'm just going to try one of these. Apparently is a resistor, which is having fun resolving. Okay, but it worked. And then I can tap the magnifying glass to query, find the item. Looks like it shows up in 2 storerooms. And then I can go ahead and tap to get to one and display the details for that particular item in the inventory application. Well, let's see if this looks better in Portrait. Nah, landscape still works. And again, that's just what you want to consider when you're building out the application, which display works better for you, and you can also alter what fields you're actually going to display here as well. But you do have essentially the normal functions available to you in the application, and you just need to choose which ones you're going to actually make available to you mobily. Again, keeping in mind this will work while you are connected, and in my case I've got an Android pad, I don't know, 4 years old, but still works, and I have Wi-Fi, so that's how I'm able to go ahead and do this. So the nice part about it is it can work, deliver out of the box as long as you're connected. It'll work on other non-Android devices as well. The keyboard to do the scanning is just a feature I've noticed is available for Android. It has not, that I'm aware of, been made available for Windows or iOS. But I'm sure there's probably one for a fee. And this one has actually a fee version as well, which I would encourage if you're going to be using in a production environment as opposed to a demonstration in my case. But that is the only thing doesn't come with it. Everything else comes by design in the core product as delivered in the commercial off-the-shelf or out-of-the-box version. So again, Start Center, nice thing about it is it is giving you a better overall look and feel for the individual user. The other thing to really keep in mind, the Start Center should be designed based on security tied into the role for that particular security group, and in general probably is going to be representative of what people need to see as they begin their day, and there may be other things that they want to see towards the end of it. But you want to try and focus on that when building out your overall Start Center for normal use as well as your Every Place Start Center for mobile use.